As you guys know from looking at the landing page for this webinar where you guys signed up, or the LinkedIn event if you came through that channel, in today's session, we are going to be discussing how you can book appointments through a chatbot using TARS. So one of the features that we created, I think earlier this year, or I guess now last year, was a Google Calendar integration. Along with a couple of other input UI features where we could accept calendar and time at the same, in this exact same gambit. And the culmination of those updates was that we had a feature set, we realized, where we could allow people to essentially book appointments through their chatbots. And we thought that was a really powerful use case. We started using it ourselves, as I was mentioning to the people who joined the call a little bit earlier. We started using it ourselves, and we saw pretty awesome results for TARS. So we book all of our demo calls, all of our sales calls through an appointment booking chatbot, or most of them probably through an appointment booking chatbot. So this webinar should actually be interesting compared to our other ones, because usually when we cover a topic like lead generation, when we cover a topic like lead generation for mortgage or lead generation for real estate, we're working with clients to get their lead gen set up through a chatbot. But in this case, with appointment booking, we actually use it ourselves. So it's a little bit more personal for us. As always with these webinars, we like to begin with an intro. For the people who are repeat attendees, you will know exactly what I'm about to say in the next couple of slides, because we always start our webinars with this. But for the newer people here, I like to give an intro just so that you guys know who we are at TARS and who I am, so that I'm not just a disembodied head on the screen telling you what you should do in your marketing campaigns. And that you know exactly where all of the information that I'm telling you in this session is coming from, what experience it comes from. So first of all, TARS is a company that it's been in the conversational tech space since 2015. And we have primarily helped people boost their conversion rate, marketers boost their conversion rate using chatbots. So the basic idea is people come up to us usually with a conversion rate issue where they have a certain amount of marketing spend, a certain amount of money, certain amount of time, certain amount of effort they're putting into their marketing campaigns, and they aren't pleased with how many leads they're getting out of that investment. So we usually try to optimize their campaign using chatbots to get them more leads with that exact same investment. And we've been doing that since about 2015. So we've been in this space for quite some time now. As for who I am specifically, I'm a conversational designer and a marketer at TARS. So I actually build chatbots for clients. And also I make content like this webinar that you guys are attending right now to help people get set up with chatbots in their marketing campaigns. I've been with TARS for about 4 years now, so I have 4 years of chatbot creating experience. And in that time, I've created over 100 chatbots. So that's the experience that's really informing what we are going to discuss on this webinar today. Actually, really quick, before we jump into the important stuff, I forgot to mention to you guys, we actually have a special deal for everyone who's attending this webinar that we will reveal at the end of the webinar. So if you stay on till the end, we have a deal for you guys relating to appointment booking chatbots that you guys might find interesting. So that gives you incentive to stay all the way to the end. Anyways, getting back to the session at hand. With the intro out of the way, we can move on to the important stuff, which is appointment booking chatbots. And I'm going to breeze through this next section where I explain what appointment booking chatbots are a little bit quicker than usual, just because I want to get to the live build and to your questions and answers as soon as possible, because that's where I think the most value in these webinars comes from. So first of all, we need to define what an appointment booking chatbot is. I already alluded to it a little bit earlier in the intro to this webinar, but essentially an appointment booking chatbot is a chatbot that walks prospects through the appointment booking process through a chat conversation. So a prospect lands on the chatbot, the chatbot takes their preferred time and their date that they want to have the appointment booked, and then it schedules that into your calendar and the prospect's calendar. So the added benefit of appointment booking chatbots on TARS is that we have, as I mentioned earlier, a Google Calendar integration. So whenever an appointment is created through a TARS appointment booking chatbot, you can automatically send an email invite to your prospect so that it's scheduled in their calendar. and it will schedule it in your calendar as well. And the beauty of this Google Calendar integration, as we'll get into a little later, is also that when the chatbot is showing your available time slots, just like with any other appointment booking software, when it's showing prospects all of the free slots in your calendar, it will check your calendar to see where you have other meetings and not show those spots. That way you will never get double booked when you're using an appointment booking chatbot. It's a pretty standard feature in most calendar softwares, appointment booking softwares, but it's a necessary one. So I thought it was worth mentioning over here. Now, the natural next question from this is, why would anyone want to use a chatbot for appointment booking? We're getting a couple of questions over here. I will answer these at the end of the session, just so that we can get through this a little bit quicker. But they have been noted. So the natural next question is, why do you want to use a chatbot for appointment booking? There are a whole bunch of other softwares out there that already work, that you're probably already using to book appointments. Think about softwares like Calendly, for example. We used to use Calendly to book our appointments, and we still do in some parts of our site. But why did we make the switch to chatbots? And why should you consider making the switch to chatbots? What's the difference between a regular widget and a appointment booking chatbot? And the difference really boils down to one thing, and that's personality. The difference between an appointment booking chatbot and a regular calendar widget like Calendly is the personality or lack thereof in the actual appointment booking process. So the way we think about it at TARS is that most appointments lead to a human meeting at the end. So people are booking an appointment to get on a call with you, a sales call or a demo call. That's what we use it for at TARS. They are booking it for maybe a live demo where you are face-to-face with them, giving them a walkthrough. Or they're booking a consultation. So think about use cases like a doctor's appointment. If a doctor was using a chatbot to book appointments, that's a live consultation. That's a consultation where you're actually going into the doctor and speaking with them. So it's a very human interaction. And as someone asked before this webinar started in the Q&A section, restaurants, for example, when you're booking a table at a restaurant, you can either go through something like OpenTable, where you just fill out all of your details and reserve a spot, or you can talk to a chatbot to do that. But at the end of the day, at the end of that interaction, you're going to have a human interaction where you go into the restaurant, you interact with the wait staff over there to get your food and probably eat with someone. And actually, the restaurant example is ideal, because just the other week, actually, I was thinking about this and talking about this with the other people on the TARS team just yesterday. But just last week, I was at breakfast at a restaurant that was particularly busy. And when I got to the restaurant, pretty much all the tables had been taken, except for one. Thankfully, I got the table which hadn't been taken. It was right next to the entrance, and we were sitting there, and we realized that the wait staff in the restaurant was completely slammed. We asked the waitress who was tending to our table what the issue was, and it turns out that everyone in the restaurant had called sick. So there was just one waitress in the entire restaurant. There was no host or hostess at the entrance of the restaurant greeting people, taking their names for a wait list. And that was causing real issues for the restaurant, because what we noticed was happening was people were approaching the restaurant to put their name down for a table. And when they reached there was no actual human being there, because the waitress was elsewhere in the restaurant taking people's orders, serving people their food. And instead, what the restaurant had done to combat this lack of staff was they put a clipboard over there, so new people who came to the restaurant who wanted to wait for a table could put their name down on that clipboard and essentially just wait there at the entrance. Now, what I noticed was that people who were waiting in line outside, once they wrote their name down on the clipboard, after like 2 or 3 minutes, were getting extremely frustrated. They were complaining about the fact that there was no one there to greet them. They were complaining about the fact that there was a clipboard. Some of them were looking super confused, and a lot of them just walked away. They canceled their name off the clipboard, and they just walked away. And what I realized after that interaction, just because I was preparing for this webinar, is that the issue with that interaction sort of gets to what the difference between an appointment booking chatbot and a regular calendar widget is. And it's this lack of personality or an abundance of personality, depending on which software you're looking at. That's at the core of that issue. So when people walk up to this restaurant, they expect a human interaction. They expect someone to take down their name onto the clipboard for them, greet them to the restaurant. And when that person isn't there, they get super annoyed because it feels impersonal. It doesn't feel like they're getting customer service. And that's essentially the difference between a regular calendar widget like Calendly and an appointment booking chatbot like the TARS appointment booking chatbot. In the calendar widget, you are essentially just filling out a form. It's super impersonal. And like in the restaurant example, where there's just a clipboard at the front, there's no one from the business actually there tending to your needs. There's no customer service over here. It's purely self-service. Whereas in a chatbot, even though you're achieving the exact same appointment scheduling, you are doing it through a conversation, and that makes it a two-way interaction where there is someone from the business over there giving you customer service. So that is the true value of these appointment booking chatbots, and that is what makes people want to switch from the regular calendar widget. That's what made us want to switch from the regular calendar widget to the appointment booking chatbot. It just adds a little bit of personality to the process. It adds a little bit of customer service. It's a nice touch to give to your customers. And that helps you create better relationships with your customers and drive more business. The other thing which I haven't actually included in this slide deck is just the cool factor. I was actually talking about it just this morning with someone else in the TARS team, and there are always these products that you see where you see the product and you don't know what it is about the product, but you just want to have it. There's just something about it that stands out to you and you want to have it. And I think that's part of the appeal of these appointment booking chatbots. So a couple of days back, someone from our team made a post titled "How to Get Value from a Chatbot in Under a Minute." Some of you guys attending this webinar might have seen that post, and that's how you might have found out about us. But essentially, he made a recording. Levi, my colleague, made a recording of his appointment booking chatbot and how it helps him book meetings. It was a very short video, under a minute long. And the response to it on LinkedIn was tremendous. He was getting DMs from everyone. They didn't know what it was about the software. They didn't know what it was about what they saw, a lot of them. Some of them knew exactly what value they saw. But a lot of them didn't know what it was about that video that appealed to them, but they knew they wanted to have it. And that cool factor is a big reason people like using these bots, because when you show this to your customers, they're seeing something different, and that catches their eye. That gives you a greater share of their attention. But as is always the case with chatbots like this one, or any chatbot for that matter, in the marketing space, it all boils down to implementation. If you build a meeting chatbot that doesn't work well, that doesn't have the Google Calendar integration and double books you, that isn't optimized for conversions, then just like with any other software, it's not going to work out for you. If you want to see the value that I'm talking about through a meeting chatbot, then you have to build not just a regular meeting chatbot, you have to build a good meeting chatbot. And that's why we are on this webinar today. We are going to walk through the entire process of building one of these appointment booking chatbots on screen right now for you guys to follow along with. And then you guys can use that in your marketing campaigns. So really quickly, I am going to exit from my slide deck, jump over to the TARS screen. Actually, let's start from scratch over here. I'm going to log out of my account just for the newer people who are joining our webinar for the first time and are interacting with the TARS platform for the first time. Go to hellotars.com. This is our landing page. Just a quick show of hands. You guys can see my screen right now. You guys can see the TARS landing page. I just want to make sure before we continue with the webinar. Awesome. That's great. So go to the TARS website. That's hellotars.com. It's a purple looking page. There's a video with me in it right on the front. Click on the green sign up button at the top right of the screen and sign up for an account. So over here, I'm going to give it my name, give it an email. pretty standard looking sign up form. Let's pick a password and give it a phone number, just because it helps us give you guys a better customer service experience. Hit the green create an account button, and that is going to drop, oh, that email is already used. Let's go with a new email account. But yeah, hit the create account button and you will be dropped into the TARS builder. By default, you are dropped into the chatbot template section of the builder, where you can select from these templates over here as a base for your chatbot creation. We have hundreds of them divided by use case and by industry, which you can see in the dropdown on the top right. And essentially you can use these chatbots as a starting point for your own chatbot creation, where you can essentially clone the chatbot and use it as a starting point. But in this webinar, we are going to be building a chatbot from scratch. So these templates are not particularly important for us right now. So to build a chatbot from scratch, what you want to do is select the TARS button at the top of the page. So just hit the TARS logo. That's going to take you to the My Chatbot section of the builder. Over here, you can see all of the chatbots that you've created, all of the chatbots that you've cloned from the chatbot templates. And since this is a new account, there are no chatbots over here. So we're going to hit the big blue create a chatbot button in the center of the page, give our chatbot a name, call it appointment booking, hit create from scratch, and jump straight into the creation process. Once the page loads, on the other side, you have a creation workspace. Now, I know that a lot of you on this webinar right now are already TARS creators, so you guys are very familiar with this workspace. You've used it before, but for the people who haven't used TARS before, this is where you essentially define the messages that your chatbot sends and the sort of input that you accept from users. And the basic building block for a conversation in the TARS builder is a gambit. So over here in the top left of the screen, you should be able to see a green add a gambit button. If you click on that, it creates this object in your creation workspace. And what that object represents is a single back and forth between the chatbot and the prospect. So once you click on it, you can define the chatbot messages at the top of the configuration over here, and you can define the user input at the bottom of the config over here. So we have a bunch of different user input types. Now, getting back to the topic at hand, appointment booking chatbots. Generally, the context in which appointment booking chatbots are used is one where the person interacting with the bot already knows about your business. So they've either gone to your website, they've gone to your landing page, they've gotten an email from you maybe, where they know what your business does and they want to book an appointment with you to learn more about it. So for example, over here, I am on our blog right now, and the bot in the bottom right corner is an appointment booking chatbot. If you go through this flow right now, it will book an appointment with Ish from our team for a consultation about chatbots. Now the context for this chatbot, for this appointment booking chatbot, is someone has landed on this page. They have read through, presumably, some of the content on our blog. They might have gone to our website where they've seen that we make chatbots to increase conversion rate, and they're ready to make that appointment. Or another example is Ish actually uses this same, or not this same appointment booking chatbot, but another appointment booking chatbot in his emails. So at the footer of your email, if you're in correspondence with someone, if you send a sales outreach email to someone, you can have your appointment booking chatbot in the footer of the email so that people can click on that and book an appointment. But my basic point over here is that understanding this context is valuable in defining how you can start the conversation in your chatbot. Because people already know about your business, you don't need to go about telling them what your business does. So you can just start out by telling them that you are going to help them book an appointment, or you're going to help them get something done with this company they already know about. The first thing I always like to do in this first message is give the appointment booking chatbot a persona. As I mentioned in the slides, the core value of these appointment booking chatbots is the fact that they have a personality. And I really want to lean in hard to that. So I'm going to say something like, hi, I'm TARS, Arnav's personal chatbot assistant. Now, this gives my appointment booking chatbot a personality. It frames the interaction as one between someone who wants to get in touch with me and my own personal assistant, who is a chatbot. And then I can continue the conversation from there. So either I can go directly into the appointment booking flow where I can say, I can help you book an appointment with Arnav if you'd like. Or better yet, what we can do is we can make this an all-encompassing personal assistant chatbot where it automates a bunch of repetitive tasks for you. So we can say something open-ended like, how can I help you? How can I help you today? Just a second. We're getting some more questions. This one is an easy one to answer. Do you support multiple languages? We do. I'll get to this a little later and show you exactly how you can do that. But how can I help you today? And then instead of giving them an open input UI where they can type in whatever they want, what we're going to do is we are going to define the specific tasks that they can get done through this chatbot. So again, think about those repetitive tasks that you generally get done through an email chain or through another piece of software, for example, appointment booking through Calendly. You can do that stuff through this chatbot. So over here, I'm going to make it a really simple chatbot. The first one is obviously going to be schedule a consultation with Arnav, see Arnav's previous work, sign up for Arnav's newsletter. Or actually, just so that we can get into the appointment booking flow as quickly as possible, I might just drop the newsletter option over here and just keep it at 2. Now with that, you can hit the save button, rename your gambit to something like intro, something descriptive that tells you what's going on in this interaction. It's just an introductory interaction where we're finding out what the prospect wants to do, and hit save. We can deal with the previous work gambit first, just because we want to get to the appointment booking stuff more in depth. So let's finish that up, previous work. And we can link them to the TARS blog. That's actually why I had it open. We can say something like, great, acknowledge their user input. Always a good best practice to have. If you've watched any of our previous webinars or read any of our content. So we say great because they sent us that message. And now we can say something like, you can check out his previous work over here at the TARS blog, at the TARS blog. And then we can link that to the TARS blog. Change this to buttons and redirect them to the scheduling flow, which is the appointment booking flow. Schedule a consultation with Arnav. And really quick, before we get into the scheduling flow, I always like to add icons in my buttons just because it makes them a little bit more visual. And it's a nice touch to add to your chatbots. So over here, I'm going to scroll down. There we go. We have a calendar, hit save. We can do the same thing up here, use icons, schedule a consultation. We have a calendar, see Arnav's previous work. We can make that maybe just a regular generic document. I know there's one which has a magnifying glass in it. So let me see if I can find that. Let's just give it this regular document over here and hit save. Now with that complete, we have the auxiliary, the supplementary flow ready. And we can move into the real meat and bones of this webinar, which is the appointment booking. So to do that, we are going to create another gambit over here. We are going to connect the gambit up by clicking on the red socket that are open in the previous gambits and connecting them to the top red socket in this new gambit that we've created. We're going to jump into that gambit and define the messaging before we get into any of the integrations. So the first thing that you're going to do is say, sure. So they've just said that they want to schedule a consultation with me. We are going to acknowledge that input, say something like, sure, I will need a few details to get you set up. So just priming them for what I am going to ask them in the next couple of messages. Now, before we actually collect the details, there are a couple of things you need to know about an appointment booking flow. There are basically 3 things that you need to book an appointment in a TARS chatbot. 2 of them are absolutely necessary, and the third one is we highly recommend that you collect it just because it makes for a more coherent flow. And those are, you need to ask for their name. So we'll ask for their name first. You need to ask for their email as well. So we can add an email gambit over here for later. And then you need to ask them for the specific date and time that they want the appointment to be booked at. And we'll get into that after this. But the first detail we're going to collect over here is their name. Just because in a conversation, usually when you're talking to someone you don't know, the first question you ask them is, what is their name? Especially if you need to know what their name is. So over here, we're going to say, sure, I'll need a few details to get you set up. What is your name? First, what is your name? Now, to accept their name, we're going to leave it at text input. And from input type over here in the text input config, we are going to select the name option just to make sure that they are giving us a name. Hit save. And now we are ready to go on to the next detail. Now for the next detail, I think at this point, what we can do is we can actually start to collect the date and time. So the way I'm thinking about this flow is someone lands on your bot. They have landed here from an email. They've landed here from your landing page. They've landed here from your website. They click the schedule a consultation button, and they are they're ready to book their appointment. The first thing we do is ask them their name, just so that it makes the conversation feel a little bit more human, because that's what a human being would do, and we need their name as well. And then once we've got their name, we can let them choose a time slot that they want to, where they want to book the appointments. Now for this, we are going to have to actually jump into the Google Calendar integration. So we created a new gambit over here. We're going to put the email gambit off to the side for now. We created a new gambit over here. We connected it up to the name gambit. We're going to jump in. And since this is where they are selecting their time slot, we're going to rename this time slot. Now, before we actually continue with the integration, what we're going to do is we're going to define the messaging. So we can say something like, nice to meet you, and then pull their name in. So we're using the data referencing feature over here. If you use double curly braces on either end, and then you type in URSP for user response, dot, and then the gambit name. So over here, the gambit name is name. So we want the user response from this gambit. So URSP dot name, it'll plug in their name over there. So if someone talks to this chatbot and they say, my name is John, it'll say, nice to meet you, John, over here. So nice to meet you, their name. Let me pull up Arnav's calendar to see when he's available, to see when he is free. This is, again, the chatbot has access to the calendar, as you will see in a minute or so, but we're adding this message over here just because it makes it feel a little bit more human. It sort of evokes an image in the prospect's mind that there's someone on the other end actually pulling up the calendar to see when they are free. And it makes the bot feel a little bit more human. And again, it plays into that personality aspect of these appointment booking chatbots. Once it says that, we can give them a little bit of a longer delay just so that it gives them the impression that someone's actually there looking for the calendar and looking for those available slots. So we're going to make it a 4-second long message delay. And then we can say something like, okay, select the time slot that works for you from below. Okay, now we have the messaging set up. What's going to happen now is people are going to land on the bot. They're going to see these buttons over here. If they are ready to schedule a consultation, they hit schedule a consultation. It asks them for their name. Once it gets their name, it says, nice to meet you, their name, pulls up my calendar, checks when I'm free. And now it needs to show the prospect what time slots I am free at so that they can select one for a meeting. First thing that you need to do to get that set up is at the top over here where it says basic, you need to select the dropdown. So click on basic and select Google Calendar. Once you do that, you will see that the entire gambit changes changes pretty significantly. First of all, at the top, there is this new configuration section where you have 3 tabs: select a Google Calendar action, select a Google Calendar account, and set up Google Calendar event details. If you've used Zapier before, this is a very similar workflow to Zapier. That's what I noticed using it for the first time. So you might be familiar with this. And the other change that you'll notice is that if you go to the bottom, the input UI has changed from a regular text input to a calendar and time config. So now people can choose a date and a time in their in the conversation, and we'll see what that looks like in just a second. But before we do that, before we take a look at what our bot looks like so far, what we need to do is set up the actual Google Calendar integration. So we need to give our chatbot access to our Google Calendar, so that it can see what time slots we are available at and show them to the prospects, preventing people from getting double booked. So now in the first tab over here, we have 2 options: show available slots on calendar or create an appointment. Obviously, since we're trying to see what available slots there are, we are going to select the first of these options. We'll get to the second one a little later in the flow. Once that's been selected, which it is by default, hit the green next button. Now it is going to ask you to connect your account. And I was actually speaking to Vineet from the tech team earlier about this. We noticed a little bit of an issue with this, but hopefully it doesn't crop up right now. And if it does, he is on the call with us to help us troubleshoot our way through it. Hit the connect account button, and it is going to be a regular connect Google authentication screen. You guys have probably signed into something using Google before. I'm going to select my account over here. So arnav@hellotars.com, and click the allow button to give the bot access to my calendar. We didn't have any issues. It's great. Once you've connected your account, hit the green next button, and it'll take you to the third step in the process of pulling all of your available slots. Now over here, what we want to do is we want to define certain aspects of the event. So specifically, we want to first define which calendar the bot is going to pull the available slots from. Over here, since I just have one account set up, there is only one account in the dropdown. So it's going to pull all of the available slots from my account, arnav@hellotars.com. And then it's going to move on to the date limitations type. So the date limitations are essentially if you want to, we're getting some more questions over here. Zoom pops them up on my screen. I will answer these questions at the end of the session, but your questions have been noted. Getting back to the date limitations. So the date limitations over here, essentially what they do is they define what specific date range users can choose a slot from. And there are 2 ways you can define this. The first one is a relative date. And the way that works is you select a minimum date and you select a maximum date. And within that range, prospects can choose a time slot. But the key thing to note about the relative date feature is that these minimum date and maximum date values change every single day. So if we set the minimum date to today and the maximum date to a month in the future, when the prospect lands in the bot, they can choose any time slot available between the day that they opened up the bot and a month from that day. So if I pull up a calendar, today is the 8th of January. If they land on the bot today, they can choose any available time slot between the 8th of January and the 8th of February. If they were to land on the bot on, say, the 16th of January, then the value for this minimum date and the value for this maximum date would change. Instead of the today value being the 8th of January, the today value would be the 16th of January, because on the day that the prospect opens up the chatbot, it is the 16th. So today would be the 16th, and then a month from the 16th would be the 16th of February. So you can see how this relative date limitation type works. You define a date range based on when the prospect lands on your bot, and they can book any time span, any time slot within that date range. So I'm going to leave it as today and a month from today. So that means that anytime the prospect lands on the bot, they can book a time slot only a month in advance. And the beauty of this is that it prevents people from booking time slots like a year after they land on the bot, when you don't know what your schedule might be. So it prevents that from happening. It prevents, for example, some people will try, we've noticed when you don't have these limitations, some people might try to just put in a random date. It gives you a realistic date where you know what you're doing. You probably know what you're doing within a month. You probably know what your available slots are. The other type of date limitation is absolute date. So over here, you can define a very fixed period on a calendar between which they can select dates. And this is super useful. For example, if you are going to a conference and you want to set up meetings with people at a conference, you share your appointment booking chatbot on the Facebook page or the LinkedIn page or whatever page it is, whatever group it is for the conference, or with people you're networking with on LinkedIn, and they can choose a specific time slot in the span of those conference days. So for example, if there was a conference from the 22nd to the 25th, sorry, that's a month long. We can move back to Jan, the 22nd of Jan to the 25th, a 3-day long conference. Now people can select a time slot within the scope of that conference to meet with me. But for the purpose of this webinar, I'm just going to select relative date and keep it at that. Once that is set up, we have this first calendar gambit set up. Now the chatbot is going to open up. It's going to say, hi, I'm TARS, Arnav's personal chatbot assistant. How can I help you today? Someone clicks on the schedule a consultation button. It asks them for their name. It pulls all of my available time slots from my calendar and displays it to them in a calendar and time config, and then they can select one of those time slots. Also, the time slots are going to be pulled from my account, so arnav@hellotars.com, and they're going to only show time slots within a month from the day that the user accesses the bot. So we can actually see what this bot looks like so far. I've published the bot. We can open it up in a new tab and actually work through the flow. So hi, I'm Arnav, as personal assistant. How can I help you today? Schedule a consultation. Sure. I will need a few details. First, what's your name? So we can say, I'm not going to say Arnav again because this would make no sense. Let's say something like Jack. Nice to meet you, Jack. It's pulled all of my dates from Google Calendar at this point, all of my available slots. And it's going to display them over here. So let's see what is going on Thursday. Over here, as you can see, there are some slots not available over here. After 4:30 p.m., for example, not available. Actually, I guess we defined that in the thing, but there will be some slots over here that are not available because in my calendar, there's already an event over there. And that's essentially how we prevent double booking from going on. Now we can move back to the flow and actually continue building out the rest of the event. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is a third detail that you absolutely have to collect if you want this appointment booking chatbot to perform at its maximum potential. And that is the email. So we created that email gambit earlier. We are going to go ahead and connect it over here. So drag it over, connect it, open it up, acknowledge the user input. So they've just selected a time slot. We can say that works well. Or we can just say something like awesome. Finally, to confirm your appointment, I need your email ID. Please share it with me below, and then we can add an emoji pointing to the bottom. Let's change the message delays really quick. And in the text input config, we are going to change the input type to email. Hit the green save button, and we are ready to close out this flow. So basically what's happening now is they land on the bot, they click schedule a consultation, we collect their name, we show them the available time slots, they select an available time slot, and then they share their email ID. Now what we need to do is we need to take all of this information and create an actual event in Google Calendar that gets scheduled into their Google Calendar account and into our Google Calendar account. So the way we do that is, again, as always, create another gambit. So over here, we are going to create another gambit, connect it up, rename this book appointment, because this is where we are actually booking the appointment in the slot. And again, over here, we actually have to go into the Google Calendar and send that invite and add that event. So we're going to change the gambit type from basic to Google Calendar. Now, this is going to show you the config again. It's going to change the input UI again. But instead of selecting show available slots on calendar, this time what we are going to do is create an appointment. So hit the create an appointment option, hit the green next option. It's going to ask you to connect your Google account again. We've already connected it in the previous step, so we're going to hit the green next button. And now we can define this event. So once the event gets created in Google Calendar, what is it going to look like? And that's what we are defining over here. So the first one is the summary. You can think of this as the title for the event. And the one I usually go for our sales calls. If you've ever jumped on a sales calls at TARS, you will know what this event title looks like. A lot of people use it across businesses. So I'm going to say this is ursp.name. So we collected their name. This is why we collected their name, because we want to add their name in to the event summary. And because when we jump on the call, we want to know what their name is. So we're going to, again, use that data referencing feature I talked about earlier. So we're going to do the double curly braces on either end. And then we're going to say user response. So ursp dot, and then the gambit name. So over here, the gambit name is actually name. Again, I'll show you that. If we scroll up here, we want the user response from here. So ursp.name. And then after that, we are going to add a couple of carets. Say Arnav chatbot consultation. So again, thinking back to that example conversation we were having where we said our name was Jack. Once the event gets created in Google Calendar, it's going to say Jack and Arnav chatbot consultation. So they will know what that event is if they booked it 2 weeks into the future, and it pops up as a reminder on their phone. They know that they're going to have a conversation with me about chatbots. So they're going to have a consultation about chatbots. Now, for the event to be created, we want to add all of the attendees. You don't have to include your own email ID because it's obviously getting created in your Google Calendar account. So just add the other people who are attending the event. So the prospect in this case. Now over here, again, we will have to use the data referencing feature. So over here, we are going to do the double curly braces again. So double curly braces, and we can close out the double curly braces. And in between these curly braces, we're going to do URSP again, so user response, except this time we aren't going to get their name. We are going to actually pull their email ID. So the gambit name is email. So we want the user response from the email gambit. So in the curly braces, we're going to put ursp.email. Once that's been set up, we are going to give them a quick description just so they know what's going to happen. Brief discussion about how chatbots can make marketing more efficient. Okay, and the final thing that we have to do, obviously, is we have to tell the prospect, or we have to tell Google Calendar what time and date the event is at. Now over here, again, we are going to use the data referencing feature. This is a recurring theme in these appointment booking chatbots. But essentially what we want to do is we want to pull the time slot that the user selected in the time slot gambit up here. So we want to pull the date that they have selected into our calendar event and send that to Google. So we showed them the available slots, they picked a time slot, and now we are ready to schedule that time slot in for an actual appointment. So they selected a time slot, it's their user response. So again, in the curly braces, we start with URSP dot, and then now we are going to have the name of the gambit. So in this case, it was time slot. Now what is going to happen is the user lands, once we hit save, the user lands in the bot, they select schedule a consultation. We ask them for their name, we get their name. We pull all our available time slots from Google Calendar, show them the time slots. They select one of those time slots. We say, okay, great, that time slot works for us. We get their email ID. And then in the end, we tie it all in together over here where we create the event. So we name the event, we add their name, our name, tell them a little bit about what the event is about. We put their email ID in the list of email IDs for the event creation, just so that they get an invite to this event and it gets scheduled into their calendar. And we tell Google Calendar which time slot they selected. So over here, ursp.timeslot goes ahead and adds the time slot which the user selected up here. So now their appointment has been booked. We are ready to actually close out the conversation. So we can say something like, great, in the messaging. Or they just shared their email ID with us. We can say, thanks, your appointment has been scheduled. Have a nice day. And instead of adding no input over here, what we can do is we can make this auto page redirection. That's how you end a conversation. Hit save. You can see that the socket is not red anymore. It is black. And that indicates that the conversation is complete. We're going to go ahead and hit the publish button. And now for the moment of truth. Is this chatbot going to work? So let's open up the bot again. Hit leave over here. Hi, I'm TARS, Arnav's personal chatbot assistant. How can I help you today? See Arnav's previous work. Okay, great. You can check out his previous work at the TARS blog. Schedule a consultation with Arnav. Sure. I'll need a few details to get you set up. First, what is your name? Let's give them a fictional name. Again, let's go with Jack. Nice to meet you, Jack. Let me pull up Arnav's calendar to see when he is free. It's going to pull up the calendar. Okay, select the time slot that works for you from below. So let's go ahead and select the 30th of January at, let's keep the appointment early, so 9 a.m. and hit send. It's going to say, awesome. Finally, to confirm your appointment, I need your email ID. So let's give it an email ID. Let me give it my personal email. So, gmail.com. Thanks. Your appointment has been scheduled. Have a nice day. Now, what date was that at? That was 30th Jan at 9 a.m. Now, for the moment of truth. Is this going to work? We got another question in right now. I'm going to get to this in just a second. I presume you guys can see my calendar right now. Raise your hand if you can. Awesome. Okay. There we go. 30th of Jan, Jack and Arnav chatbot consultation, 9 a.m. It's created the event. It's added a Google Hangouts Meet link to it so that we can jump on the call together. And actually, if I go into my personal email really quick, I should have an email invite from the chatbot telling me about the event. Sometimes it does go into my promos tab, but as you can see over here, in my personal email, which I gave as the email of the prospect, I have an invite for this event that the meeting chatbot created. And with that, we've created a fully functional meeting chatbot. I'm not gonna lie, for a second there, I had my heart in my mouth. I thought maybe something will go wrong over here, just because something always goes wrong in a live stream. But yeah, that's how you build a meeting chatbot. We can actually go back into the TARS builder, make some basic changes. So let's pick a theme. I like the color blue, bluish green. Hit publish. We can also check the data over here. So if you select view, you can see all of the conversations I've been having with the chatbot. You can analyze the conversations, export them into a CSV. But that is pretty much it in terms of how you can and should build a chatbot. an appointment booking chatbot to be specific. Now, before we jump into the questions, what I am going to do is I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know if some of you guys might have joined later on in the webinar, but we are actually having a special deal for you guys since you joined this webinar today that I want to tell you guys about. So let me actually go to our webinar page. Let's go to resources, webinars, just so that you guys can see how you can avail of this deal. But essentially what we are offering you guys right now is if you guys are interested in this meeting chatbot technology, if you guys want to use it in your business, you're intrigued by the idea, what we are offering you is if you go to the webinar landing page, I'll drop it in the chat for all of you guys to check out, to all panelists. Okay, I just sent you guys a link to the Meeting Chatbots webinar page where you guys signed up for this webinar. If you click on the yellowish orange Buy Now button, it'll take you to a page where you can actually avail of this deal. And what the deal is for $499 a year. So that's $499 for the entire year, which is considerably cheaper than our regular plans. The bot makers at TARS, the bot making experts at TARS will create a appointment booking chatbot for your business. So you send us your landing page, you send us the specifics about your business, about your customers, and we will create a custom appointment booking chatbot for you so that you don't have to go through the hassle of making this, even though, as you saw, it's not much of a hassle. And then you can deploy that immediately to your website. And of course, as always, with most of our customers, we offer customer support, so customer success. If you guys have any issues, if you guys have any additions that you want to make, any questions, you can reach out to us and we will actually go in and help you make those changes or just make the changes for you. So again, if you go to our website, if you go to the landing page for this webinar and click on the yellowish orange Buy Now button, you can avail of this offer where for $499 a year, we will create and help you maintain a meeting chatbot for your business. I've sent the link to that in the chat for this webinar, and we'll send it to you with the webinar recording. Someone asked earlier whether we have a webinar recording. We do, and we will send you the link to the webinar page and to this deal page where you can avail of this deal. With that, we're actually done with the creation portion of the section of this session. I am going to stay on to answer questions now. We have a whole bunch queued up over here. So we can get right into that. Let me just pull up my slide. For the people who don't want to stay on but might have any questions, we have this, you can contact us through any of these ways. You can go to our website and book an appointment with us through our appointment booking chatbot. You can send me an email at arnav@hellotars.com, or you can give us a call on this number. I'm going to leave this up here for you guys to take down. Again, remember about the deal. We'll send a link to that. It's there in the chat. And now we can move on to the questions. So the first question we got was, can the TARS bot handle something like a booking for a restaurant table, request X amount of seats on X date / time, add some notes, e.g. allergy information, give the user a link to the menu, for example, or if group size is over 10, people require a deposit. You absolutely can do something like that. The only issue I see you running into possibly is that if you are using some sort of appointment booking software to handle all of those appointments, you wouldn't have the native integration over here. You wouldn't be able to go to the dropdown and select that appointment booking software. But what you could do is you could go to the integration section over here and use the Zapier integration to integrate with that software. But you could absolutely do something like that. So over here, if we go back to the build chatbot section, a lot of those extra details that you were talking about. So what were the extra details? Add some notes, allergy information, etc. All you have to do is add more gambits and make your flow a little bit more complex. So over here, for example, we could have the menu. We could say, great, here's the menu, give them a link to the menu, or just display the menu over here. If you ask them for that part, like the size of their party when you're booking it. So for example, let's make a duplicate of this. So they give you a size of their party size. Let's make this basic because we don't want to schedule it in Google Calendar. Time slot. Let me move that out of the way. Hit save. And then after that, go to the menu, maybe. At this party size gambit, what we can do is we can add a conditional jump. So for that, we'll actually have to activate a feature. So again, click on the TARS button at the top. It's going to take you back to the admin dashboard. Click on settings, enable bot features, select conditional jump over here, and then jump back into your bot. I'm just going to refresh the bot over here so that the conditional jump feature shows up. And essentially what we are going to do now is we're going to say, first of all, we are going to ask them for a number. So what's their party size? If, so ursp.party size. So if the user response in the party size gambit, so whatever the party size is greater than 10, we'll send them in one direction. So if their party size is greater than 10, we'll send them in this direction, and then we can tell them about the deposit. And if it's less than 10, so in all other cases, we'll send them in the other direction where we don't tell them about the deposit, and we just ask them for their time slot. I hope that answered your question. We have some more questions over here. Can this be integrated to WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, mobile phone text, or is it only via website widget? So currently our chatbots are only web-based. We used to have a Facebook Messenger integration, but we found that people weren't really seeing the value that we wanted them to see through a Facebook Messenger integration. So that's why we don't have that anymore. We do have, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, Vineet is on this call right now. He heads up our tech team, but we do have a WhatsApp integration in the works, I believe. The other thing that I will note is that it doesn't have to be used through a widget. So as you can see over here, when I hit publish and I open it up into a new page, this chatbot lives in its own link. It lives in its own link as a landing page. So what you can actually do is, if you're using another service like Twilio or something if you're using another service like Twilio for say text messaging, what you can do is you can send out this link to people so that they can actually access the link and schedule an appointment. So it does sort of slot into those workflows. We have a question about the offer over here. For the $4.99 a year special, can the bot also be used for things other than appointment setting? So really quick, again, we have an offer going on right now. Let me see if I can find it for you. Should have left that tab open. Let's go to resources, webinars. If you go to the webinar link, there is this yellow buy now button. And if you go there for $4.99 a year, we will make an appointment booking chatbot for you and maintain it for you. So like if you have any changes, if you have any doubts about how you can change things, we'll help you through that. Just so that you have a bot expert from TARS building it for you. Now the question over here about the offer is, can you use the bot for other things other than the appointment setting? You can. So basically in this workflow, the key aspect about this offer is that you get one chatbot. In our other plans where you have access to more, where it costs a considerably higher amount. What we offer you over there is multiple chatbots and deeper integration into things like lead generation. So this is for people who are running like lead generation campaigns for example, Google Ads campaigns, where you need a lot more integrations into other pieces of software. We offer you more support for things like that. If you go for this offer, what we are essentially giving you is this one chatbot which books appointments for you. But in addition to that, to that, in addition to that, that appointment booking flow, what you can do is create offshoot flows, just like I did over here. So over here, it says see previous work. It goes off over here and tells them about the TARS blog. So theoretically, once we create the appointment booking chatbot for you, you can go ahead and build out the chatbot to add other features in and integrate it into your workflow. So the answer to your question is yes. Moving on. What do you need to do to support multiple languages? Okay, so we got a question earlier on in the session that asked whether we have support for multiple languages. So as I mentioned, answering one of the previous questions, these chatbots function in the web browser. So pretty much any language that Google Chrome or Firefox, or God forbid, Microsoft Edge supports, your chatbot can support as well. So whatever language you type in over here, that is the language that will be displayed to your users. So anything that the browser can support, any language that the browser can support, you can ask your users for details in that language. And if they have the keyboard to respond in those languages, they can respond to your lead generation queries, and it will be submitted to our database where it will be saved. Notably, for a lot of the like pieces of text that are there, where it says type here, choose from below, we do have support for changing the language on those as well. If you go to the configure section on the left side of the screen, there is a chatbot language selection over here, and we have dozens of languages that you can choose from. We have a good chunk of European languages, and a lot of Indian languages as well. So if you go to the configure section, change the language type over here, it will change the language. And as for the messages themselves, if you define the messages over here in a different language, they will be shown to the user in that language. So we have a lot of people who make bots in other languages, and it works out great for them. I think I recently just saw a bot where the person was typing in Cyrillic, so I presume Russian, and it was working fine for them. Answer live. I hope that answered your question about the languages. If you have any more doubts, feel free to drop them into the question and answer area. Is there an integration or another variation of Dialogflow for understanding what the user types in the chat? Theoretically, we have not worked much with Dialogflow in our bots, but you can do this. And the way you can do this is if you create a new gambit. I'm just going to create a new gambit to show you how it works. From the dropdown in the top, instead of selecting Google Calendar or Basic, you can select the API config section. And this is an open-ended API config that lets you connect with any API that has web-based endpoints, has HTTP endpoints. And I know the Dialogflow does have that capability. So if you do want to integrate Dialogflow into, I've used Dialogflow in personal projects of mine. If you do want to integrate Dialogflow into your chatbots, you can absolutely do that. And we'd be more than happy to help you out with something like that if you are interested in doing something like that. Just because it's a new challenge for us. Well, I guess API configuration is not a new challenge for us, but it would be an interesting use case, and we'd be curious to see how it works as well. So we'd be more than happy to walk you through that and help you out with that. I will say the one thing, the one sort of issue that I have with using services like Dialogflow, we talk about this a lot in our content, is that we just don't feel like the NLP engines that are out there are at a level that provides a good user experience right now. So usually what ends up happening is in other chatbot platforms, people will create chatbots with AI in them, and they'll add AI in there just so they can say that they have NLP, that they have AI, just for the sake of it, just so that their company looks looks fancier. But what ends up happening is, because the technology isn't quite there yet, unless you're a Google, Amazon, or Facebook, what ends up happening is that the prospect will inevitably ask your chatbot a question that the bot does not know how to respond to, and then the conversation breaks. That sort of is representative of most chatbot conversations today, not on the TARS platform, thankfully. And it usually proves to be a very disappointing experience for both the customer and for the marketer, because they're losing out on that lead. So that's the one thing I'd be wary about. You can do some basic conditional jumping, as I mentioned over here while responding to this question, using conditional jumps if you integrate that with the API config feature. So say a user submits a text input to you, you send it to api.ai, it gives you a response about what that user is saying. And then based on that API response over there, where it says, okay, it's identified that the user wants to, for example, in a banking workflow, for example, it's identified that the user wants to check their account balance, or it's identified that the user wants to apply for a new credit card. You can, based on that response from Dialogflow, you can send them in a different direction. So if the Dialogflow response is credit card or whatever, or if I forgot how Dialogflow works, but if this entity is sensed in the response, then you can send them in a direction where it helps them apply for a credit card. So I hope that answers your question. If you have any more doubts about it, feel free to drop them into the Q&A section. What do we do for the user to enter the description text for the appointment? So all you need to do is essentially, I don't know if you guys pick this up, but the data referencing feature can be used for any gambit. So for example, over here, if we were to, before we collected the time slot, add another gambit here that is called event description. And we drop underscore over there. We can say nice to meet you. Pull their name in, just because they just shared their name with us. Nice to meet you, your name. What do you want to discuss with Arnav? E.g., tell us about your business. So over here, we accept a piece of text that can be used as an event description. We keep it as text input, and we keep it as custom text, just to give them a complete free reign in defining what the description is. We hook that up into our workflow. So we've disconnected the name from the time slot over here, and we've connected it to event description. And once they've provided us with the event description, we are going to send them to the time slot. So continue with the regular workflow. Over here, let's just go in and change this to nice to meet you. We can say, great. Save. And now, once we have collected this information from the user, once we've added that to our workflow, if you go to the book appointment gambit over here, instead of defining the description manually over here, we just need to use that data referencing feature again. So again, the double curly braces, I'm going to open them up and close them up. And now we want to get their user response from this event description gambit. So we are going to type in URSP dot, and then the name of the gambit, event description. And now what's essentially going to happen is, if you go through that exact same workflow, the event description in the Google Calendar will be the event description provided by, it'll be the event description provided by the prospect, their response over here. Again, hope that answered your question. If you have any more questions about that, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section. Also, a point to note, if you guys are new to the platform and haven't used it before, we do have an intercom widget in the bottom right. They're great for customer support, not so good for lead gen. That's why we're using intercom. but if you use the intercom widget over here, you can get in touch with anyone from our team, and they'll walk you through any of these questions that you have. So the person who just asked about the user description, you can rewatch the recording of this webinar to see what I just said, or you could just drop us a message. We'll jump in, make the changes for you, and explain exactly what we did. So that was answered. If you have multiple services, how would you handle the appointment confirmation, title, and descriptions? If you have multiple services, so I'm a little confused about this. Do you mean, I don't know if you're still on this webinar right now, but do you mean, like, for example, if you have Outlook and Google Calendar, and you want to create the events for both of them? I'm going to presume that is what you mean by multiple services, but that theoretically shouldn't be an issue, because this entire system works as essentially a flowchart. So once you have booked, if you collect all of the details that you need for booking an event in Google Calendar, and you can collect all of the details that you need for booking an appointment in Outlook, through your flow, at the end when you're booking the appointment or when you're setting up the configuration, all you need to do is like create another. So what we could do over here is, if we go in auto page redirection, let's make this no input. So we accept no input over here. What we could do is add another gambit over here, connect it up. We can delete all of the messages over here because we've already signed off the conversation. All we want to do now is send that exact same event to another service, so Outlook. Delete all of the messages, end the conversation, so don't accept any input. So now essentially what's going to happen is they'll reach over here, it'll book the appointment in Google Calendar, it'll send them these messages, and then it won't give them any opportunity to respond. As far as they're concerned, the conversation is complete. Nothing is going to be displayed for them. But what you can do in this last gambit, where they are not interacting with anything, is select the API config feature and then hook it up to Outlook. Or alternatively, what you can do is the Google Calendar integration works with the Zapier integration over here. So if you want to integrate with another calendar, we do have in our product pipeline more calendar integration, so Outlook, things like that. But if you want to integrate it through Zapier, what you can do is you can set up the Zapier integration over here. And then what will happen is whatever services you have integrated through Zapier will get that event, and and the Google Calendar that you've connected over here will also get that event. So yes, you can integrate with multiple services. Can you add additional info for the user about the booking, e.g. a location, adding additional people to the event? I just got a message from Vineeth. I don't know if you guys can see this in the webinar chat, but he said a native Outlook integration is coming up soon. So if you do want to integrate with multiple services, that should not be an issue in the near future. And it shouldn't be an issue right now as well, as I just explained. But can you add additional information for the user about the booking, e.g. a location or adding additional people to the event? You can do that. Essentially, all you need to do to add more people to the event is, if you want the user to collect more people, to suggest more people to add to the event, all you need to do is ask for all of the email IDs. So just if you want to add maybe 2 or 3 more people to the event, you can just add another gambit and say, who else is attending? Accept another email, and now they can share another attendee. And you just keep doing that for how many attendees you want to accept. In terms of location, or actually before we move on to that, if you yourself want to add more attendees, you can absolutely do that. So if I go here, in addition to the prospect's email, I'm going to add my colleague's email. So ish@hellotars.com. Now he will, every time an event is created through this appointment booking chatbot, he will also get an invite. So you can add as many attendees as you want. In terms of a location, again, this all boils down to the data referencing feature. So if they give you a location, so let's say we add a location gambit over here. Let's call this location. Where do you want to meet? And now we can accept a geolocation. We can do map or auto suggest. Let's keep it at auto suggest where they start typing an address. We ask them for their location, and then we just drop that location down here into the description. So again, data referencing ursp.location. And now the location will be added to the description. So depending on who you want to provide that extra information, you can absolutely add that in. You just need to collect that information from the user if that's what you want to do, and then reference that in the appointment booking over here, and it will be handled for you. As of right now, we don't have a native location integration. So if you want to add a location in the Google Calendar, event itself, by default, it just adds a Hangouts Meet. It just adds a Hangouts Meet appointment or link that people can use. So by default, it does that. I think, I'm not sure, Vineet, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are constantly working on improving our integrations, and we will probably add that location feature as well. Let's see what other questions we have. Location, added additional people to the event. For the okay, so we got some more questions over here from the same people. Oh yeah. If we tell the user what the location is, but add it into the calendar, you can absolutely. So getting back to the location question, we got a follow-up on that. For the location, I meant if we tell the user what the location is, but add it to the calendar is the follow-up. We can absolutely tell the user what the location is. All we need to do is essentially tell them in the flow itself. So somewhere over here, we need to just like type in a message, the meeting will be at, and then tell them what the location is. You can also embed a Google Maps. You can embed a Google Maps embed into your flow so that they can see where it is on Google Maps. And in terms of adding it to the calendar, again, right now, you will have to add it to the description. But I don't know that, I'm not quite sure about the technical side of things, but I think we should be able to integrate it with the Google Calendar location feature. If you are interested in doing this, sign up for the product and reach out to us through the intercom widget. We can likely put you in touch with our tech team who will help you work through that. Let's see what other questions we have. How do you tell the chatbot the phone number and connection details I'm not sure what. How do you tell the chatbot the phone number and the connection details? I don't fully understand that question. But essentially what you could do is, if you want the user to share their phone number with you, you could just ask them their phone number through another one of these gambits, just like we asked for email, and then include that phone number. Now the chatbot knows about the phone number because it's just collected that information. And then you can data reference that. You can data reference that phone number in the appointment booking gambit, and the chatbot will know what the phone number is and add it to the Google Calendar event. Well, I seem to have lost, there it is. I lost my Zoom panel for just a second. I hope that answer, where does that information come from? I presume if the invite you should hang link and a phone number. In the invite, you showed a Hangouts link and the phone number. Okay, so what happens in the Hangout, Google is automatically creating this phone number. This is just a phone number that Google has created for people to call into this Hangouts meeting. So essentially, instead of joining the Hangouts meet via a link, if someone wants to call in while they're hopefully not driving, but if someone wants to call in and put it on speakerphone on their regular phone, Google has created this number for that person to call in to the Hangouts meeting. So that's where that phone number is coming from. All right, so this has been answered. Any plans to integrate with Google Sheets or Integromat? Yes, actually, our next webinar that we are yet to announce still is on our Zapier integration, which I briefly alluded to. So if you go to the check data section and select integrations over here, you can connect with Zapier. And in that webinar, what we are essentially going to do is show you how you can send all of your details from your TARS chatbot directly into a Google Sheet or into any of the other services that are available on Zapier. So if Integromat is there on Zapier, we know the Google Sheets is, you can absolutely just send all of this data to those pieces of software using the Zapier integration. So stay tuned for that webinar. You'll definitely find that interesting. Is it possible to disable that number for the Hangouts? I'm not sure. That's a Google feature. So you'd have to ask them that question. I think Google by default, anytime it creates a Hangout, will add a phone number to it. I think that's just the way. Google Hangouts or Google Meet works. So yeah, you'd have to ask Google that. But again, if you have any questions about the specifics of our calendar integration, sign up for the platform. Is it possible not to have a Hangout as the default event type then? It should be possible in the Google Calendar documentation, but again, this is a question for the this is a question for the tech team. So if you sign up for our platform and you reach out to us, we can put you in touch with them, and they will help you work through that issue. But it should be possible theoretically. I'm actually getting a message right now saying that Integromat is a service that's very similar to Zapier. So you can connect to Google Sheets and you can connect to any other app you want to through Zapier. We don't have an Integromat integration yet, but Zapier is extremely useful. I've used it myself on personal projects and work projects, so highly recommend it. If you use Zapier, you can send all of your data to wherever you want. And actually, I just realized that our tutorial video, which I shot myself, shows you how you can send the conversation data to a Google Sheet for the person who was asking that question. I'm getting a message from our product team actually that says that Integromat is an integration that is on the product roadmap. So if you don't want to use Zapier and you want to use Integromat, that is coming to the platform soon. Couple of more questions that we got into in our chat. How do you give access to clients so that they can select their Google Calendar for the bot? Ooh, that'll be a question again for the tech team, because I think that will require some level of OAuth integration so that they can hook their calendar up into the bot. I don't think we have the capability for that right now. Or is it, or are you talking about clients as in the people who are using the chatbot at the end of the, are you talking about like bot creators? So once we create the bot for you, how do we give you access to select your Google account? If that is the question, then essentially what we do is we create an account for you, we create the workflow, and then we give you that account. So you have that account and you can log in and connect your account in your browser. Presumably you are logged in. If you are talking about maybe selling the chatbot to other companies, if you're a digital marketing agency, again, you can use that exact same same approach. You can create a separate account for them, and then they can get set up with that. So you set up the entire flow, they log in to their TARS account, and they sign up. They sign in to their Google account. But yeah, that is how we set you up. That is the approach we use to set you up with your Google Calendar for the bot. Can you set a maximum number of appointments within a certain time slot? Okay, so this is, I think, the last question we are going to take for this session. But can you set a maximum number of appointments within a certain time slot, e.g. 30 available at 10 a.m., so that each time a user books, it reduces down to 29, 28. Again, I actually think this should be theoretically possible, but you will have to do a little bit of extra work on this. You might have to create a custom API for this, but this is theoretically possible. If you create something that um, that if you create a custom API on a platform like Glitch or something, if you know a little bit of programming, you can keep track of how many events have been booked in a certain time period, and then you can block off that time. Also, if there is that feature in your in the software that you're using to manage these appointments, you should be able to hook up with that software through the Zapier integration again to ensure that you don't get overbooked. Actually, I'll take one more question because it's a follow-up to one of the questions that was asked earlier about the calendar integration. How about creating a bot that can find the calendar for multiple team members? Yeah, that's absolute. That's interesting. So you want to find the time slot of multiple team members in one. Is that correct? Like if the flow asks a question for a region, you will send them to the calendar of that region salesperson. Yes, that's absolutely possible. Okay, that is definitely possible. Essentially, what you that's definitely possible. All you need to do is over here in the select Google Calendar account, you just click the connect account button again. And if you get all of your, okay, it just connected my account twice. I'm not sure why. I guess that's the only Google account signed up, but signed into this device. But if you sign into multiple Google accounts on a single device and you just connect all of those accounts into your bot, when you are selecting the time slot over here, you can select which calendar it chooses from. So if you have all of your sales reps, if you have all of your sales reps Google accounts hooked up over here, you can select which sales rep gets that event or which sales reps time slots are selected. And similarly at the end over here where it's book appointment, again, you select which calendar, whose calendar that appointment goes into based on the location that the user selected. So one way you could do that is like you could have different branching. So before we even get into the time slot gambit, add the location over here. So once they ask for the event description, you drop them into the location, they share their location. And then if you can figure out, or if you ask them like a broad question about what region they live in, ask them all the regions, and then based on which region they select, you send them off into a different direction, right? So now all you need to do is recreate this flow. All you need to do is copy this flow. So we have a copy gambit button, how many ever times, and connect the location region area, the region options up to the flow so that based on what region they selected, based on what region they are in, their appointment will get booked into a different sales rep's Google account. One Google Calendar account, multiple calendars, the drop down. All the calendars in accounts. Okay, so I'm actually getting a message from the tech team, which actually clarifies this a little bit. Over here in the choose calendar dropdown, each Google Calendar can have multiple calendars within it. So if you have all of your sales reps calendars into a single, if you have all of your sales rep calendars synced to one account, so if you share all of your sales reps calendars to your Google account, essentially what can happen is all you need to do is connect your Google account over here. And then from this dropdown, you can select which sales rep the appointment gets booked into. So I hope that clarifies your doubt. But again, if this is something you do want to integrate, sign up, reach out to us through Intercom, and we can give you a personalized walkthrough of how that works. I think that is finally it. I believe that yeah, I believe that we have answered pretty much all of the questions. There is one more question, but this is a repeat. This is a person who's several questions already. I will say it seems like you are quite interested in this platform. So if you set up a personal conversation with us just so that we can end the session, we'll be more than happy to walk you through any doubts that you have. So again, if you have any other questions for us, feel free to sign up for an account on TARS. It's free. We don't even ask for your credit card details. So feel free to sign up, reach out to us on the conversation, and we can pick up the conversation over there. Or alternatively, as I mentioned earlier, if you send me an email or jump onto our website, right here at the bottom, yeah, here you go. If you send us an email over here, we will be more than happy to respond to you. But tentatively, could the same method be used for multiple bookings within the time slot? Then, yeah, theoretically, yes, it could. But we can get into that more over an email conversation or a chat conversation. Thanks for your interest, though. It's really flattering when people ask a lot of these questions. With that, I think we are ready to close out this session. Thank you guys for attending. Thanks for the great response. We always love to hold sessions like this because it offers you guys so much value. Again, for the people who are still on this call, we have an event or we have a deal that we are offering right now. I'm just going to go through that again, just so that you guys remember that this is an offering that you guys have since you attended this webinar. But essentially, if you go to the webinar landing page that I have shared in the chat of this Zoom session, you can get a appointment booking chatbot created by the bot creators at TARS. So someone like me at TARS to create an appointment booking chatbot for your business for $499 a year. So we will create the chatbot and help you maintain it for $499 a year, which is considerably cheaper than the full-fledged, the full suite of TARS features where you get more chatbots. So this is just one chatbot, $499 a year. It books appointments for you, and we'll create it for you. So go to the website for the webinar, click the Buy Now button, and fill out your details, and we will get cracking on your chatbot. Thank you guys so much for attending. It has been a pleasure hosting the session for you guys, and join us for our next session as well.